What is up, everybody? Welcome to the third and final segment of the Awesemo Golf Podcast, the Against the Grain podcast, where I, the host of this, Jason Rouslin, go over all of the ownerships that I have projected for the upcoming week, talk about a couple of pivots in each pricing section, and go on. So what I do there is I break it into 4 pricing sections. I've done this for quite some time now, a couple of years, 10K, 9 to 8K, 7K, and 6K golfers. It's just how a good way to observe the golfers that are priced around you, or not priced around you. Well, maybe, I guess, if you're a golfer listening to this, priced around each other, and an easy way to compare. So, as I mentioned, this is the third segment and a final edition of the Awesemo Golf Podcast series. What I try and do is I try and just break it up into 3 small segments to break up the content, to save my voice a little bit, and so that nobody hears me for an hour straight. Of course, nobody really wants to listen to me for an hour straight, especially myself, so I try and break it up that way. So let's get right into it here. But before we do, we're going to thank SuperDraft, our sponsor for this month, for all of our audio-video stuff. If you haven't played over there, check it out. In fact, it was of the slates that I played, it was one of 3 winning slates of the 10 slates that I played last week, so I'll be playing over there a little bit more this week. The future of daily fantasy sports have arrived. Experience SuperDraft's exclusive game mode multiplier. Say goodbye to salary restrictions and hello to lineup freedom. Use your fantasy sports knowledge to draft any player you want and build your very own dream team. Countless lineup possibilities let you experience daily fantasy sports the way you want. SuperDraft offering contests right now, PGA, NASCAR, and MMA, so you can enjoy the best of DFS all year round. Sign up for SuperDraft today using promo code Awesemo10. You're going to get $10 free on your first deposit of 10 or more and $20 free on your first deposit of 100 or more. Download in the App Store or play at superdraft.io. All right, let's go into last week's Millionaire Maker winner, which, crazy, man, second straight week we have had a single bullet take it down. I mean, that's insane. There's 177,000 entries this week. One entry took it down last time. That's 2 weeks in a row. This week, 47% total ownership. The lineup, Justin Thomas and Collin Morikawa, no surprise there. Charlie Hoffman? What? How did he get in there? Well, he did. Jason Day, Roy Sabatini, and Ian Poulter. What a lineup. Took Hoffman in, of course, Morikawa having a great day on Sunday, but still Hoffman at 0.7% owned, a total of 47% ownership, only 49,800 salary used. That is a way to differentiate. Keep yourself under 50% total owned and not use up the full salary, and you're almost guaranteed to have a unique lineup. All right, let's go into last week's ownership review. The big misses for me was Joel Damon. He kind of came in at 20%. I had him at 10%. Cantlay, I had at 20. He came in at 28. And Justin Thomas came in close to 12 or 11, and I had him projected around 19 or 20. He ended up playing a really good GPP play because of that. Of course, that's why projecting ownership is a little difficult, and see how valuable it can be if you're dead on and right and getting that leverage on the field. All right, let's move on to this week, and we're going to talk about Awesemo's top 10 projection. And this is a very, very strong field. In fact, it could be, once it's all said and done, the strongest field. If we get no withdrawals due to COVID or anything like that, it will be the strongest field of a PGA Tour event ever held in terms of strength of field. So it's kind of cool, but it does make pricing a little harder, and it brings ownerships down quite a bit. So Awesemo's top 10 this week. Patrick Cantlay coming in close to 20%. Tiger Woods also coming in close to 20%, his first time teeing it up in 5 months. Jon Rahm coming in close to 20, where now we get a little dip off from Rory and Webb and Xander, as well as Berger, all around projected around 16 or 17%, followed by Gary Woodland, Hideki Matsuyama, Abraham Answer, and Justin Thomas, all coming in maybe at 15 or just under 15%. So again, for the top 10, Cantlay, Woods, Rahm, Rory, Webb, Xander, Berger, Woodland, Matsuyama, Answer, and Thomas. All right, let's move on to talk about some of those guys that we just mentioned and a bunch more. But before we do, I want you to go on to the Awesemo Twitter handle. So it's at Awesemo_com and check out the pinned tweet. You've got a chance to win a free weekly pass All you got to do is like our Facebook page and join our Facebook group, which, again, you can find the links right through our Twitter page there. All right, let's move on. So this week in the 10,000 range, which is different, we've been accustomed to having 6 for the last couple of weeks. We get 5, and that's likely due to the highest prize pools and guaranteed prize pools with $3 million guaranteed for the Millionaire Maker this week. They need to ensure that it fills, and the way to ensure that it fills is to allow for easy lineup making, and certainly with softer pricing that allows that. It's only 5 golfers above 10K. I've got a total ownership of 70%. Just talked about how I suspect Rory to be the highest owned here, as he's only 10,700. I suspect the first time that we haven't seen Rory as the top price guy when he's been in the field. So I suspect a lot of golfers, or gamers I should say, will go back to him. He should come in around 16 to 20%. He'll be the highest owned here. Next, I think first off, I think Colin Morikawa, it's pretty clear that not many people are going to trust him at $10,000, especially coming off a win, especially with not a ton of data still on him. I mean, we know how good his iron game is, but also coming off a win, Dustin Johnson at 10,300. He's back up from the 9,000 value range. He's going to be around 15%. Justin Thomas also around 15%. And then Bryson DeChambeau, the highest priced golfer in the field this week. I think that might be scaring some people off of him, especially since it's the strongest field ever assembled for a PGA Tour tournament. The fact that Bryson DeChambeau gets the nod, maybe scaring people off a little bit. He's only projected around 14 or 15%. All right, let's move on to the 9 to 8K range. And this range is stacked. 19 golfers and a total ownership of close to 250%. So an average of over 10 a golfer, and we are going to have very close to that. I'll start with the low-owned guys. It looks like Justin Rose, people are maybe falling off the wagon a little bit off of him, especially based off his odds and where he's priced around. You know, he's priced right near Woods and Fowler and Berger and Woodland, who are all seemingly playing better. Well, maybe not Tiger, of course. We don't know that for sure yet. So I think Dustin Rose may end up coming in around 10%, along with Sungjae Im, who just hasn't really put it together. Sure, he's made some cuts, but he hasn't really showed us anything great. Then Matthew Fitzpatrick, who was the same price last week and got around 15%. He's going to come in around 10. Matt Kuchar, who falls into the Sungjae Im category, just hasn't been that impressive. And Jason Day, who was 7,700 last week in a much, much worse field, is now up $300 to 8,000 in a really strong field. So I think that'll keep his ownership around 10%. So if you're looking for some leverage, definitely those 4 guys have the opportunity. Brooks Koepka would be my fifth one to have leverage on. He's projected around 10%. Whereas the next couple of guys around the 11 to 15% range, including Abe Answer, Patrick Reed, Ricky Fowler, Xander Schauffele, Victor Hovland, and the like. I've already mentioned a couple of guys like Cantlay Simpson, Rahm, Tiger as some of the top-owned guys. Fowler and Berger should fit in somewhere in between those, with Woodland also getting pretty highly owned there. So again, if you're looking for leverage, again, it's going to be with Matt Fitzpatrick, Matt Kuchar, so a pair of Matts actually this week, which is funny enough. And if you're looking for one over the other, I lean Matt Fitzpatrick. I think he's shown us a little bit more upside, and I hope that his ownership doesn't trend that way because of that. I'd like to get some leverage on him. Jason Day did show us something last week, but I suspect that he'll probably come in closer to 10% more than Matt Fitzpatrick will with that name. All right, let's move on to the 7K in the value section here. We've got 34 golfers, a total of 190%, so a decent amount coming from this section. And it's some of the names that obviously had a great week last week, including Ian Poulter, Kevin Streelman, 2 guys in the top 10 last week. I suspect will be right back to 10% owned. Adam Hadwin has been super reliable and consistent the 4 times he's teed it up since we've come back from the hiatus. I expect him to be over 10%, whereas somebody like Paul Casey, who normally, even in a field like this, would be in the 8K range or higher, is only going to come in around 10 or 11% because he's only played once or twice, so we don't really know where exactly his game is, even though he did make the cut at the Travelers. Joaquin Niemann has played very well, very consistent. Again, he'll be around 10%. Billy Horschel also had a great week last week. He'll come in around 10%. Sergio Garcia has been in a good run. He'll come in around 10% as well. Then it gets a little interesting. You've got 4 guys, maybe even 5. Mark Leishman, Scotty Scheffler, Jordan Spieth, Byung-Hyun An, and I'll even loop in there Matthew Wolff, who are all coming in off missed cuts at the exact same course, but have shown us at least a little something. Well, maybe Wolff has. Wolff came in second, but the other 4 guys we know to be good players, but have not showed us that much since the return. I expect them all to be around 7 to 10%, maybe a little higher on Leishman, and a little bit lower on Scheffler and Spieth. The next bunch of guys, still a lot of ownership here to be given out. Corey Connors, Lucas Glover, Doc Redman, Rory Sabatini, Cam Champ, Harris English, Harold Varner, Kevin Kisner, and even Joel Damon, all I suspect to get around 5% this week. And then we've got a little bit of a European contingent with Danny Willett coming in off a top 10, Louis Oosthuizen, who always shows up in these tough fields, Shane Lowry, who had a decent week last week. All four of those guys project to be around 3 to 5%, so plenty of opportunity to get leverage there, as well as on someone like Keegan Bradley and JT Poston, who has sat out. Both those guys, Keegan Bradley didn't sit out last week, had a great week ball striking, though. He's expected to be pretty low owned. All right, let's go into the dives a little bit for at least a couple of seconds here. We'll talk about the 6K range, but only one guy expected to get over 5%. I think that'll change a little bit, especially with some of the casual players expected to play this week because Tiger's back. Brandt Snedeker at 6,800, I think most people will recognize that name. I think because of that, he'll get around 5, maybe upwards of 7 to 10%. Brendan Todd also has played pretty well, so maybe I expect some gamers to go back there as he has had some pretty consistent form. Also had a chance to win the Travelers before a bad Sunday, so maybe some ownership there. Max Homa has been a popular play of many people as well, plus he's out in the limelight, so I think he's got a little bit of namesake as well. He could get close to 5%. Maybe Jim Furyk and Alex Noren fit in that same category. Most of the other guys, though, that are in here with a total ownership of 100% on 75 golfers, a lot of 1 and 2% owned guys. So if you have a read on somebody down here, you like somebody in this range, I don't think it's going to take you a lot to go overweight. I think you can pretty much stick to whatever you'd like to do there. And of course, as I always say, don't go too much over the weight. They're priced in the 7K range for a reason. All right, so I appreciate you guys coming in and checking out the Against the Grain podcast. It is a quick little 12 to 15 minute podcast going over ownership for the week and talking about some pivot plays that we expect to be the best, or I expect to be the best. And of course, if you like this, I appreciate you liking the podcast on whichever way you're listening to it, whether it be SoundCloud or Apple Podcasts. And of course, leaving a rating and a 5-star rating makes me know that you enjoy the content and like the content that is being given. If you want to hear anything different or more in this content, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter, or of course, if you're an Awesemo Plus member, which if you're not, you can join for $8.95 for just this week. And of course, we've got the biggest prize pools in the DFS space since we've returned, so great time to jump in if you're not a member. If you are, go ahead and hit me up on Slack, in the internal Slack DMs as well. Those are always open. So until next time, everybody, go out and, of course, join Ben Raz and I tomorrow night, 8:30. We'll be breaking down a little bit of this and so much more. So until then, everybody, thank you for coming by the Against the Grain pod, and we'll see you on the other side. Cheers.